Another Harry Potter movie tie-in game. You know what this means, right? Flipendo!
Depulso!
Flipendo?
Depulso!
Flipendo.
Depulso!
What? There is no Flipendo in this game. It has been replaced by Depulso.
Depulso!
How can there be a Harry Potter game with no Flipendo? Depulso just doesn't have the same ring to it. And it has taken the icon from Rictus Sempra to boot.
Depulso!
Now, you might be thinking, actually, there was Flipendo in Prisoner of Azkaban. Well, that might be because you have played a different game version than what we're looking at today. There are 3 entirely different games all named Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Not 5 like Chamber of Secrets, because by this time in 2004, PlayStation 1 and Game Boy Color became largely unsupported platforms, but that's still a hefty number. And in this video we're taking a look at the 3rd PC version developed by No Wonder. Before you keep watching, I have to warn you that in this video I assume you have seen my review of the PC version of Chamber of Secrets, as direct comparisons will be drawn for the purposes of saving time and avoiding repeating information you might have already heard. And the Chamber of Secrets video assumes you have watched the review of Philosopher's Stone PC version for the same reason. So it is best to watch the videos in order. Links can be found in the description and YouTube cards. Harry's 3rd year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry is full of dangers again, with the escaped convict Sirius Black supposedly wanting to kill him, and the Dementor creatures being strangely drawn towards Harry. But this time, the boy who lived has direct help from Ron and Hermione, who are not only going to accompany him often, but also can be controlled by players themselves. Will this make The Prisoner of Azkaban the best of the 3 released PC Harry Potter games so far? Let's find out, as always with the help of my Stasocritic scoring system, the first category of which is design. This is the most important category of Stasocritic with the biggest weight, 4, as it focuses on everything related to the gameplay experience, how a title is built and structured. If Chamber of Secrets was a testament to the power of iteration and what can happen when you take a foundation set up by the previous game and build on top of it, Prisoner of Azkaban is sort of a warning regarding what can happen when you try to be too ambitious. Not only from the design side, trying to create the biggest world with 3 playable characters, but also from technical side, transferring from one version of an engine to another. I say sort of because it is not the worst case scenario. Prisoner of Azkaban is not a total mess, but it is a step back from Chamber of Secrets. If we take the game's structure, on a high level it mirrors that of Chamber. There is a series of one-time plot missions and repeatable spell challenges between which you can explore Hogwarts as an open hub world. But the open area is less interesting. The Hogwarts from Chamber of Secrets might not have been particularly big, but it was packed with iconic locations and secrets to find. Prisoner of Azkaban tries to create a bigger Hogwarts with all 7 floors and a large ground area, but it is spread thin. Sometimes the floor is nothing but a small room with a portrait in it. And these portraits, passwords to which you buy in Fred and George's shop, are the only thing that create a sense of explorative progression, since there are much less secrets this time, and you don't need to learn any new spells to uncover them. Chamber would tease you with secrets which require spells you don't know yet, but in Prisoner of Azkaban pretty much all hub world discoveries can be made with the default set of spells. One reason for that is how the inclusion of additional playable characters was implemented. In Prisoner of Azkaban you can play as all 3 of the main characters, Harry, Hermione and Ron. Each will learn spells unique to them, which sounds great, but there are 2 issues. 1. You can't switch between characters on your own, it happens only during moments defined by the game itself. And 2. Outside of the hub world there is a very small amount of levels that feature multiple characters. A lot of them you'll play alone anyway. So not only does this limit explorable parts of Hogwarts to the default array of spells, but also puts a limit on what spells can be used in linear levels. Even though there are 5 new spells in total, each character learns only 1 or 2. As a result, the levels are less varied than those found in Chamber of Secrets. This applies to the bonus bean room as well. There are no house cup points this time, so absolutely no competition involved. you get to the bonus bean room by collecting all challenge shields in a spell lesson. If in Chamber of Secrets the bonus bean room was another gradually expanding area, the more spells you know, the farther in you can go and therefore collect more beans, in Prisoner of Azkaban the bonus bean room doesn't have any of that. Everything is available from the get-go, you just have to be fast enough. Again, this is because you can enter it as any of the 3 characters, so the room is designed only with default spells in mind. Then there is a big structural issue with the second half of the game. The ending to the main plotline of the movie comes out of nowhere, flies by so quickly, and then after that, you are met with several pretty lengthy final examinations for each of the 3 playable characters. And you can't finish the game until you complete all side activities. Dumbledore and McGonagall block your way until you put a checkmark on all the achievements, most of which are pretty repetitive. One, for example, is you having to clear a well from lots of pixies. And you have to do that over and over and over again multiple times until finally the well is destroyed. The Monster Book of Monsters encounter is similar in nature. Prisoner of Azkaban in general likes to put in many moments where a lot of flying pixies or books are sent at you, and it gets tiring. There is no Quidditch this time, but there are some Buckbeak flying courses and they're pretty unpolished. Buckbeak is somewhat unwieldy, gets stuck or crashes due to the very sensitive collision detection, and sometimes the game just turns you away from the circle you need to go through. It's not a particularly enjoyable activity. However, for all of these missions you do get wizard cards as a reward. Scouting for secret locations to find all wizard cards was one of the most enjoyable parts of Chamber of Secrets. Here in Prisoner of Azkaban, it is less so, for the most part because, as mentioned, there is not that many secret locations to begin with. Most of the collection of 80 wizard cards is actually bought from students. In Chambers, that was possible only when you missed a certain wizard card in a linear level. Here, it's the only way to get pretty much most of them. It doesn't help that in Prisoner of Azkaban there are actually 4 permanently missable cards in some of the one-time levels. If you don't get them, you'll never complete your collection, as students don't start selling them like in the previous title. At least getting all wizard cards is not mandatory to finish the game, probably for this very reason. It doesn't help that the design of most secrets is not as elaborate. Prisoner of Azkaban has some very nice moments reminiscent of those from the previous game, like some little puzzles or a timing challenge that requires you to know the area you're in to complete it. But then there are situations like needing to cast Lumos in one place and then run into the opposite part of the map to discover a secret there. But on the other hand, the secret areas behind the unlockable portrait walls are very fun and well designed. It's inconsistent. And really, that is the best way to describe Prisoner of Azkaban. Inconsistent. Weirdly enough, it brings some flashbacks from the Philosopher's Stone PC version, and not the best ones. For example, Philosopher's Stone had an issue when spells sometimes wouldn't get properly cast, which Chamber of Secrets has fixed. This issue returns in Prisoner of Azkaban. Chamber of Secrets gets rid of 10 controls entirely, and while they aren't present for the human characters in Prisoner of Azkaban, you can control transfigured rabbits, and those have uncomfortable 10 controls that have the same issues as Harry did in the very first PC game. There are even some new issues that have appeared, like mid-air climbing not getting triggered sometimes, which causes the character you control to fall into a bottomless pit, or the portraits requiring you to try to open them several times before they actually do. And it's not like Prisoner of Azkaban doesn't have good things. While levels have less variety within them due to even bigger spell limitations that are not as elaborate as those from Chamber of Secrets, they are still nicely designed. And while there are some control issues returning, it is still enjoyable to play. Plus, for what it's worth, Prisoner of Azkaban entirely gets rid of things that never worked in previous games. There is not even a hint of a stealth section this time, nor do you need to go through any sort of sign tracking minigame to learn a spell. The game also tries to add some interesting new little mechanics. For example, when using the Expecto Patronum incantation, you need to hold and release the mouse button at the correct moment for it to be successful, so not all spell casting is just a matter of pointing and clicking whatever. But also you can literally feel how developers were pressed for time and the content was just cut. This is my assumption, but personally to me it's clear that the main goal of having Buckbeak gameplay would be to create a set piece where you need to save Sirius Black. But now all these moments are relegated to cutscenes, with bug-big gameplay being present only for the magical creature's class scores. There is also a distinct lack of boss battles. After all the improvements that Chamber of Secrets has done in this area, I doubt that it was planned to have less of them in Prisoner of Azkaban. But the boss battles will mostly be limited to repeated similar encounters with Peeves the Ghost. Prisoner of Azkaban has "we have to scramble to wrap this up" written all over it, especially when you compare its length to Chambers. In no way I want to imply that short games are worse, that's not the case. But with how fast everything passes by in the second half of Prisoner of Azkaban, and how much smaller and shorter the game is in comparison, you can just see how the original plans would have been much more elaborate and closer to what Chamber of Secrets has done in terms of scope and length. There is not much else I can dissect when it comes to this game. There was plenty to discuss for Philosopher's Stone because, as flawed as it was, it proved a foundation for games to come, and Chamber of Secrets being as huge of an evolution as it was also warranting wide grounds for discussion. Prisoner of Azkaban, on the other hand, is neither worse nor better enough to dissect anything more than how it fares with some of the new concepts that it attempts to implement. So let's open up all scores for design. Feel free to pause if you would like to read them all. I will assign a 6. There are enough good things in the PC version of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban to keep it on the enjoyable side, but also it feels like it bit off more than it could chew, and as a result the game has a bunch more flaws than the preceding Chamber of Secrets. It's time to move on to context. This category has a weight of 1 and it's all about everything that provides context to our actions: plot, characters, motivation, etc. Now, as always, even though Prisoner of Azkaban is based on the movie of the same name, we will discuss only how the game handles the narrative on its own without relying on source material. And the best way to describe how Prisoner of Azkaban succeeds is that it's closer to the PC version of Philosopher's Stone than Chamber of Secrets. Once again, important plot points just pop out of nowhere. Sometimes it is done through a line about something that happened off-screen, like in the beginning when Harry mentions that Sirius Black is after him. And that's a best case scenario, because most of the time it's something that happens out of the blue, like Harry suddenly knowing that Black is accused of killing his parents. Or at the end, Harry remembers Dumbledore's words that were actually never uttered in the game. While we're at it, you actually see the headmaster only 3 times in the entire game, and Severus Snape, who had a pretty important role to play, is nowhere to be seen. It's not as bad as Philosopher's Stone just jumping all over the place and not setting up pretty much anything at all. Ultimately, the broad overview of the plotline is there, how Sirius is an escaped convict who has been framed and is actually innocent. There are even some more detailed plot threads, like the introduction of Buckbeak and the attempt to stop his execution.
I just heard! They're going to execute Buckbeak because he attacked Malfoy!
No! They can't!
This is all Malfoy's doing! He's the one who ought to be punished! There must be something we can do! An appeal!
And you can find some nice, funny, little character moments between our main trio.
How was it?
Excellent! I can turn things into dragons now!
Wicked! You mean the flying, roaring, burn down the village sort of dragon?
No. It's just a very small transfigured dragon.
Oh, shame.
But ultimately there is just too many details missing, from setting up certain events to even character arcs or source material themes, let alone the whole thing with the end of the game being about a final exam and it having a larger focus than some of the most important character-defining moments of the story. This is why, if you open up all the scores for context, I will assign a 4 to Prisoner of Azkaban. You will get the broad picture of what the story is supposed to be, alongside some pretty nice details, but there is just too many things missing. Again, another indicator of the team being pressed for time when making this game. Let's jump to aesthetics now. This is another category with the weight of 1, and it's again about things that enhance the experience but don't necessarily define it, this time through visual style, sounds, music, etc. Pretty much everything I have said in the Chamber of Secrets PC version video applies here as well, so I'm not going to repeat any of that. I will add, however, that with the increased graphical fidelity, particular flaws stand out so much more. For example, if often robotic-looking characters due to lack of body movement while they talk was an issue in Chamber of Secrets, in Prisoner of Azkaban it can look very creepy.
You'll earn a collector's card each time you defeat all the pages.
See what I mean? But when the game looks good, it looks very good. The atmosphere is as magical as in the previous Harry Potter games. So if you open up all the scores for aesthetics, I will assign a 7. In terms of strengths and weaknesses, Prisoner of Azkaban is pretty much the same as Chamber of Secrets, but the weaknesses stand out so much more due to the increased graphical fidelity that they become bigger issues that are harder to ignore. It's time to talk about Cohesion. This category has weight of 2, and it's all about how well a game connects all of its different aspects together. And here we will open up all the scores from the get-go. I will assign a 6. Prisoner of Azkaban is much closer to how Philosopher's Stone handles its cohesion due to the lack of structural aspects we have discussed in the design section that made Chamber of Secrets feel like a more wholesome experience. Look, I told you we'll be heavily referenced in previous videos to avoid repeating information. I wasn't lying. We're getting to our final category now, emotions. This is the most subjective category of Stasocritic with the second biggest weight, 3. Because while it's all about personal feelings, those feelings matter a whole lot. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is my favorite Harry Potter movie. I love the pacing, the cinematography, style, acting, the themes and drama of it. To me, it's Harry Potter at its best. Naturally, I would very much want my favorite Harry Potter movie to have my favorite Harry Potter game tie-in attached to it, but that's not the case. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the game. I even 100%ed it, but mostly because you have to almost 100% it anyway, otherwise you won't be allowed to complete it. But the design flaws of Prisoner of Azkaban have prevented me from enjoying it as much as I have the PC version of the Chamber of Secrets. In the end, this is why I will assign a score of 8 to emotions. I liked the game, but it's not one I will be getting back to ever again after finishing this video. Let's summarize everything. After all scores and their weights are taken into account, the PC version of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban gets a final Stasocritic rating of 61. It's a nice game. Now, if you haven't watched some of my other videos, I have to mention that 60 plus in the context of my scoring system doesn't mean that a game is bad. It is pretty nice. It's just that it would have a limited audience and you need to decide for yourself if the game is something you will enjoy. Sadly, I can't recommend Prisoner of Azkaban to as many people as I could the previous installment. If you are a Harry Potter fan, especially if you have enjoyed the last 2 PC games, you will find enjoyment in this one as well. But I don't know if Prisoner of Azkaban has much to offer to other people. The game tried to do quite a bit of new things, but sadly didn't reach its ambitions. And most disappointingly, there is no Flipendo. As annoying as it could be sometimes, in the end, Harry yelling Flipendo is really the most iconic moment of these games, and this video is not going to end with a montage of that. Depulso just doesn't quite have such a ring to it. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to comment below, like, subscribe if you have enjoyed the video. A special thank you goes to my patrons. If you like what I am doing, feel free to check out my campaign at patreon.com/Farlands. Thank you.